Back, you're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Ndimuli. We continue discussing matters to do with the fight against corruption, and this is the latest wave or the latest push by the president to fight corruption, both in Parliament and the entire country, with the formation of that multi-agency task force. And we're just wondering what the intention is. I want to engage Samson Orao, who's a governance expert. He's also the Interim Executive Director, Actionaid Kenya. Bwana Samson, karibu sana to TV.
Thank you, Ndimuli.
Listening to the legislators and former legislator and seeing the kind of behavior that our legislators are exhibiting following an accusation that they are engaging in corruption. Plus, what you're seeing in the papers, that even the president's push may not really be genuine. It may be because of other influences. What does that say about the fight against corruption? Are we mishandling it from the onset?
Ndimuli, first of all, the figures that the president is talking about are just mind-boggling. 150 million shillings. We are talking about money being exchanged in committees for transaction of business, when we know that members of parliament, both the National Assembly and the Senate, really, that's their day-to-day job: legislate, pass bills, engage in policy formulation. So when you hear these kinds of figures, and when you hear other figures that we talk about elsewhere, you hear about the expressway having been, going into someone's pockets, and you talk about Aror and Kimwarer, and we talk about KEMSA and all these issues. The scourge that is corruption in this country is in a crisis. And the approach that we are using, for me, is lack of commitment. And I'll give it to the president for one thing, that when he was campaigning, he didn't promise to fight corruption. It wasn't in his manifesto. And so sometimes when I look at either half efforts, lip-sided efforts, and so on, for me, it means that we as citizens all have to come up.
Do you see this as a half-hearted effort?
There's a very half-hearted, there's no commitment. Yeah. I mean, when you say that I know, and you're saying you're consuming raw intelligence, which by right and by his duty as president, elected by Kenyans, that's his responsibility, he's got access to the best intelligence. He's got access to every instrument of state. We've got legislation. We have the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. If we really wanted to investigate, we would be able to investigate. And if we really were committed, if the presidency wanted to walk the talk around corruption, then you would be able to see it. The challenge for me is that we speak about figures like their pocket change, and we look at how we get into some of these roles, perhaps the amounts of money that we spent into getting into these roles, and we also look at what we dish out there to the public for us to be able to get elected or for us to carry favor. And so I was a little disappointed or annoyed, maybe that's a better word, when we talk about facilitation to do your job. When I wake up every morning and I go to Actionaid where I work, I only expect my paycheck at the end of the month. I know the rest of the time the organization will facilitate my job, and I am supposed to meet my obligations to the communities and the Kenyans that we serve. So when you hear about people saying that for you to vote in a committee, for you to pass a law, for you to, companies and all these things are paying people and taking people to wherever, Mombasa, the coast, wherever. And even if you look at it, even at the devolved government level, you look at it and you see members of county assembly have to be facilitated, have got to be paid to do what essentially is their job. For me, it's really a lack of commitment, and I felt that it's too little late in the day for the president to come and say, we will not name and shame, we will arrest and prosecute, and then we don't see it followed by action.
Right. What do you make of this annoyance by the legislators after that accusation? These are the representatives of the people. This is a cream of society. That when it comes to the word corruption and just an accusation is leveled against them, they go haywire, they are so angry, they even threaten to sabotage.
There's a level of entitlement that has come upon legislators, and my two friends are here. And it's really something that we also see among a cross-section of Kenyans who feel they are perhaps a cut above the rest. Mm-hmm. And when you see people saying that we passed this thing, it was unpopular, but we passed it for you. You brought this finance bill and people didn't like it, but we did it for you. We've passed unpopular legislation for you. How can you threaten us? When I see members of parliament saying that, it leaves me asking myself, then who are they representing? And on whose behalf are they speaking? Mm-hmm. And people then become entitled. Getting into parliament, I'm not a member of parliament, never been, maybe never will. And looking at the means to get access, looking at perhaps the number of people you've got to buy, looking at the fact that you've got to have top-of-the-range vehicles and campaigns are expensive and so on. And then last year, at the height of the Gen Z protests in June 2024, and there was this thing, itapita mupende musipende. I mean, I keep asking myself, who does parliament represent? Right. On whose behalf do they speak? Mm-hmm. Because it looks like the moment someone gets into the August House, they are a special breed of Kenyans. Mm-hmm. That's why we've got to open the road. That's why you have a chase car. That's why traffic has to be blocked for you. That's why you want special treatment in public places. Mm-hmm. That's why you want to be recognized. Okay. For me, it comes to a point of, really, some of us, they are very good members of parliament who will go out of their way and who you will not notice. And I can mention a few. But the vast majority, you need to see me. You've got to recognize that I have arrived.
All right. It's a very unfortunate situation where, according to the feeling now, is that the formulation of legislation is now commercial.